On behalf of the City of Yonkers and Untermeyer Gardens Conservancy, welcome back to Untermeyer Gardens. It's been a long time since we've done a video. I've missed you all, and I want to share a little bit about what we've been up to. I'm standing on top of the Temple of Love with this amazing view behind me. So we invite people up here to drink in the Hudson River and the New Jersey Palisades and all the gardens to either side and below. But we have an issue. We've been building our service area, which includes all our equipment and a hoop house and a big compost pile, and it's not the most beautiful thing. And so when you're done with this view, we turn around and we're greeted with something that looks a little bit like this. And by this, I mean this completely opposite view of the Hudson and the Palisades, as we're looking back at this very useful but quite ugly hoop house. We have an old jalopy of a tractor that's very valuable but not so interesting to look at. So what we've chosen to do is plant a screen, and rather than doing maybe what is easiest and just going and getting a bunch of arborvitae and planting a row as a hedge, we've decided to make a bit of a grove and throw in some interesting specimens. So what we'd like to do is walk around and look at some of those specimens in particular. So while this is a very practical planting to act as a screen, we've tried to include some really interesting specimen. And behind me is a triplet. I love planting in triplets, and I love narrow growing evergreens. We have a few groups around the entire garden here, but this is a white spruce. It's a Picea glauca, Pendula. It's a very narrow tree. It can grow to 30, 40 feet if it's really happy, but it'll never get wider than 8, 10 feet if it's really happy again. We put it here as a triplet. It won't act as a screen in of itself, but again, with all these other plants we've done with it, it'll be a nice little grouping within this practical planting. So this planting is primarily composed of evergreens. Again, a practical screen planting, but we've also thrown in some conifers in here that happen to be deciduous. There's only 5 deciduous conifers. I won't make you play the game right now. You can look that up later. But this is an American larch, sometimes called a northern larch, or a tamarack. It's Larix, laricina. It is a Native American tree. It is deciduous, like I said, so this looks like a conifer, it looks like an evergreen, but in the fall it'll turn brilliant yellow, this fine foliage, and will drop all its needles and be a deciduous tree. This tree can be a very vigorous grower. We're hoping it gets at least 40 feet, but again, if it's happy, we can see it get as big as 80 feet. So a grand specimen for the garden, and the only one we have here at Untermeyer. One of my top 5 favorite trees is the Dawn Redwood, or the Metasequoia, glyptostroboides. It's another deciduous conifer, so rather than yellow, all the needles on this plant turned russet, coppery red in the fall, and it loses all its foliage through the winter. The trunks on these trees are amazing. Once they get mature, they have these beautiful buttresses on the trunk that surround the branches. Just a really great 4-season tree. It was thought to be extinct. We only knew it through fossil record a little over 100 years ago, maybe 150 years ago now. An expedition in China found a specimen, and all the big botanical gardens have plants that are now getting close to 150 years old. This tree could get anywhere from 80 to 100 feet tall. And again, I'm growing it as much for its trunk and its branching structure as I am for anything else. So some of this planting does start to drift into a little bit of a deeper shade than other parts. All the conifers really like a lot of sun. So here we've chosen to use a holly, which will take a little bit more sun. This is a hybrid holly called Ilex Aquapernei, and the cultivar is Dragon Lady. What I love about this plant, again, it's a very narrow plant. It's not going to get wider than 8 feet, but it can get as high as 15 or 20 feet. It has these delicate, very glossy leaves. For those of you that are looking for a deer-resistant solution in your home gardens, this is reported to be very deer-resistant. And the thing I really like about it is it doesn't require a male pollinator, as most of the hollies do. So we'll get full fruit on this without having to get an additional male plant in to keep it looking so good through the winter. And finally, for now, my favorite plant in this planting is Sciadopitys, Vertisolata, Wintergreen. This is a Japanese umbrella pine, and the cultivar Wintergreen was selected because it holds this deep, lustrous, dark green all through the winter. The straight species can kind of lose some of its green through most winters. This one will not. This is a plant I've been wanting to plant here at Untermeyer since I started. To find one of a decent size and a decent price can be quite difficult. It is just a handsome, handsome specimen, and it'll grow to 20 feet tall if it's not happy, maybe 30 to 40 feet if it is happy, with a 15 foot to 20 foot spread. Very pyramidal, very architectural plant. One of my favorite conifers, and again, I've been waiting to plant this one at Untermeyer for a long time. Speaking of planting at Untermeyer, we have a lot of things going on. I know we haven't done a lot of videos in the past, but we've planted perennials underneath our rhododendron walk. We've gotten the vegetable garden into a display-worthy state, and some other things around that I'm very interested and anxious to share with you. So we're gonna start making a few more videos as we go forward, and we'll look at some of those places and some other interesting things that are happening here at the garden. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.